So, let's talk. First of all, I want to say that this is in no way a spoiler-free video. If you're not ready for that in your life, then maybe go do something else. But let's be honest here, most of you stopped watching The Walking Dead in season 4 or even as early as in season 2. So please don't come here and cry because I spoiled a show that you stopped watching in 2012 and will never continue watching. The Walking Dead really is a unique show, not just because it took zombie movies and TV shows to a whole new level. I know of no other show that's been able to pull itself out of the gutter over and over again like The Walking Dead has. But let's talk a little bit more about season 9. I read articles about it that said that season 9 was the best season in such a long time and it was maybe one of the best seasons ever. Did it turn out to be the best season ever? No, it's not the best season ever. It's the best season in a very long time, but that wasn't very difficult to do. My eyes always kind of glaze over a bit when the threat, the new big thing that will happen for the season, is another group of people. It's kind of like they don't trust that a zombie apocalypse is interesting enough to make a show about, but they have to have these weird bad guys that collects heads in jars or have harems or have skin masks. I know that it's from the comics. One of the things that The Walking Dead has always done really well is when it's scaled down to its bare minimum, and it's about the survival of this group. It is not as interesting when it's this action, sci-fi, steampunk, adventure war against some kind of weirdos. Season 9 is trying to be better than it was and trying to move away from all of these old things. And since the war ended in season 8, it has a clean slate to start from, so that's really good. But it doesn't walk very far from where it used to be, because from the start a new threat is lurking in the shadows. When these whisperers, as they're called, were first introduced in season 9 and we had no idea what they were, I was so excited because maybe we had sentient walkers now. And that would open up a whole new world, some kind of I Am Legend crossing, and they would really have to think about this whole good versus evil. It could have meant that old characters that are gone from the show could return, and it could also focus on how these groups would live together in this new world, how humans and zombies could coexist in some way. And I was so invested and looking forward to that kind of show. But then it just turned out to be weird people again. But this time they just put dead people's skins as masks over their heads and pretended they were zombies. Ooh, so new and interesting. And of course they are the bad guys. Of course they are evil. We know this because they kill people without remorse and they treat each other like animals and they're just bad. There's nothing good in them. They've chosen the bad life. And I'm so tired of this whole good versus evil thing that The Walking Dead has going and has always had going. It feels like instead of focusing on making them like interesting real people that are four-dimensional. They just focus on making us realize that they are the bad guys and that they are weird and that they are much more extreme than the ones that came before them. Because otherwise, how can they be a threat to this group that we've known for so many years now? And our group of people are the only ones that can be the heroes. Because we need to have heroes in a show. Otherwise, who are we supposed to root for? And when we're on the subject of heroes, I was really disappointed with what they did to Maggie. Because they started building up something really interesting with her. She had become the leader of one community and she was getting tougher and she was taking control of things and she kind of got to be the anti-hero to Rick. She was getting her hands dirty and didn't play by the rules, and the other main characters seemed to be on her side, at least a bunch of them. And I was also really looking forward to seeing how that would evolve and that maybe they would focus on an internal conflict instead of this external threat, like the difficulties of building a society and what is really right and wrong in this new world, and having more of a grayscale than what they've had to live with for so many times. For a long time it really has been this is good and this is bad and this is the only thing that we can do to not be animals. But then as you evolve and have more of a real society, it becomes more of a grayscale than black and white. But then in just from one episode to the other, Maggie was gone and everything that they have built around her just fell apart. They had given us so much and like teased how she would, which direction she would go, and then she's not there anymore. And they just remove a bunch of stuff or put it on other characters that it doesn't really work for them to take that part, but someone has to, and it's just really weird what they did to her and like that whole story. And while we're on the subject of weird character arcs, let's talk about this whole Henry and Lydia thing. I mean, Henry was supposed to be this altruistic person. We know this because he again and again threw himself into danger to save this girl, but we also know it because Carol states it in the beginning of the season that yes, Henry is this person and he always wants to do good things. So we shouldn't be confused about what kind of person he is. But even though they've stated that he is this altruistic person, he only seems to want to save Lydia because he has a romantic interest in her. And if it's only because he's attracted to her, then this whole altruistic arc just is thrown in the trash. It would have been much more interesting to see someone else that did not have a romantic interest in Lydia being the one that wants to save her and help her. Like, for instance, Judith. She is also a very altruistic person, someone that wants to help others all of the time. And if you remove the romantic aspect and then instead have an around 8-year-old girl save this stranger and how that would affect the group dynamics and all of that, that is something I would really have liked to see. And also this whole Lydia thing was not that interesting. Her character was kind of boring. I was hoping for Lydia to have more layers, and for a second I actually thought that there was going to be something more about her, because there's a scene where she is watching her mother kill two people from their whisperers group, and she's just standing there in the background, just like very relaxed, like not tense at all in her shoulders, and with her head cocked to one side and kind of having a sort of half smile on her lips. And she's just watching them. And that made me feel like, ooh, maybe she's like more than just this innocent girl, this good girl that's just ended up in a bad place and have a bad parent. But no, then it turns out that she is just this innocent girl that's been in an abusive home and just wants to get away from it all and have a normal teen life and be happy. It felt like they could have done so much more with her. They could have explored the darker parts of her life a bit more, and like what that really does to a person living in that kind of group from a very young age. It kind of was so predictable what would happen with her story that I never really wanted to believe it. I was like inventing new things all of the time that could happen instead of what was really happening. And when we're talking about predictability, this was something that was hanging all over this whole season. It felt like they never really believed that their audience would be able to figure stuff out on their own, and that they had to be told stuff instead of just showing it. Like I stated with Henry, that he was this altruistic person. It was stated very early in the season, and then he never changed from that character arc. And they did so with like every character, really, that they established who they were when they were introduced, and then that was who they were. And they also used Carl's death as a way to keep everybody on track on why they were doing good stuff, why they wanted to have a good society. If we didn't have Carl to remember us from the grave over and over again, and have different characters just tell us, oh, remember, Carl wanted us to have a good society, then we would all just forget it, and we would not understand what they were doing, and the characters would not understand what they were doing, and maybe they will all just turn into animals and just like go on a killing spree and just be evil and stuff. But because they had Carl's letters, they knew that yes, we have to be good people, we have to strive to do better, to do great things in life and not just survive, because we didn't have his letters before, because he was still alive. So then we all just did bad stuff. But now that he's dead and we have his letters, we know that we must be better people. Yes. Thank you, Carl. However, I know I'm being very critical now about a lot of stuff and a lot of bigger stuff, but there actually were a lot of things that I really liked with this season. We have to talk about the horse cars. I mean, that was the most amazing thing ever. Okay, so the characters then. The most shocking one is I like Eugene now. He was actually really cool. I was pleasantly surprised by how they had changed his character in that way, because it was still him, but like evolved a little bit. The road pirates. I just wish that we'd gotten more time with them. They could have had some of the other characters that didn't really fit into this real community, and they could join them instead and helping them clearing the roads from zombies and just living this kind of pirate life instead. Also, Daryl finally got his dog, and it also warmed my heart a lot that Carol and Daryl got so much more screen time together. And Judith, I can't pronounce her name, but she is the first child character on The Walking Dead that I really like, because she's so smart and interesting, and even if she's impulsive and like gets in trouble as well, she can handle herself, and I just love her. The only thing I didn't really like that they used her for was to make Negan more redeemable, because surprise, even though the war is over, Negan still lives, because yes, he's a good actor and a very interesting character, and a lot of people love that character, so of course he still lives. And then they put a cute kid next to him, and they have these funny conversations, and they talk smack about each other, and it's like, oh, it's so funny, haha, I like Negan and Judith together, and oh, now we don't care that Negan is a crazy murderer anymore. So season 9, there were a lot of people that left the show, and I've already talked about Maggie and how they wasted all of that. They did the opposite when Rick left. And I mean, I knew that Rick would get a big episode when he left, because he's the main character of the show. It's about his journey, so that wasn't weird at all. But I really liked his episode because they brought in old characters that had died that talked to him while he was hallucinating, and it just felt it was a very nice send-off. I was also really sad when Jesus was killed off. That really surprised me. I had no idea that he would be killed, like no hunch at all. And then the end, when they're like straight up cut so many characters just like that without no warning, that got me chills actually. It really made me much more psyched for season 10, because it just got wide open with what would happen. I mean, yeah, they didn't kill any of the main characters, but they still killed like Tara and Enid and Henry, that had been a really big part of season 9. Now Lydia doesn't have someone that she can always rely on, someone that will always protect her. She has to fend for herself. Those were my main thoughts about season 9. It had its flaws, and it was certainly not this banger that I was promised, but I mean, it was an okay season. I just hope that we're not just once again thrown into these big flashy wars between good and evil, but instead that we get to see more nuance between the different groups. I mean, we don't need a war like the one we had against the governor or the one we had against Negan and his saviors. We've had that before. And we certainly do not need something like the garbage people again. Just please leave that in the past. That's all for me. Thank you very much. Bye.